Mhm. Hey, folks. Long time no see. Are y'all in the same spot together? Oh, it looks like you're like turning and talking to like the person next to you. Oh, cool. Give it a couple more minutes for people to show up. Um, so the last time that I saw everybody was months ago, right? The group of students has consolidated, right? So what does the normal number look like? Is this about it? Have that many people dropped? You're kidding me if that's the case. Okay. Also, feel free to unmute and talk. You like I'm getting nervous. Like nobody said anything, like physically said anything to me.
Hi, Nate.
Oh, there
Hi,
we go.
Nate.
Hi. Hi.
Long time no see.
Yeah, seriously, it's been a minute.
How goes it?
It's going pretty good. How have things been going with you?
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure I should be the one to answer that. I'm all over the place.
How are you feeling about your capstone?
Me in particular, I
You in
am
particular.
very much still working on it. I'm feeling tardy, sir. Tardy
Okay.
to the party. I
Okay.
put it aside and dealt with some like, major outside of school things this summer. So here I am trying to tie up all my loose ends at the end of the program.
Um, Remind me, what was your capstone again? What was the capstone idea?
Party, join a party, host a party. You don't have enough people for your party. So it's like a third party, bring people to your party situation.
That's cool.
Thanks.
Um, well, eh,
Mm.
I might have good news for you based on some last minute changes. So we'll
Awesome.
talk about that here in a sec.
Fingers crossed.
Other folks, capstones. How are we feeling?
I tried to, so I'm like done with my capstone, but I tried to add a blog thing. And yes, that
Wow. So you're feeling good about the capstone, and now you're documenting like the process of building the capstone. Is that what the blog is about?
so no, I just
Oh,
wanted to try to add something else. Um, and yeah, it's not going excellent.
oh.
It's not bad, it's just a lot of stuff that I like forgot. So I'm like reviewing the just the things we've done to try to get it to run the way I want it to.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what everybody's been working on. I'm hoping that I'm not hoping there will be time for me to be able to see everything. Um, so that's going to be cool. Let's see what else. And then just to catch me up and get me up to speed. So um, last week, can someone summarize briefly what y'all were covering? Anybody?
Do you see somebody made a comment? They said databases.
Oh, databases. Okay. So just now getting to the point where you're connecting to Postgres or more advanced than that?
Yes, we are connecting to Postgres databases using
Okay.
localhost through Express and SQLize. We
Okay.
also try like relational tables to pull data through an API.
Okay. So my question is, how are folks, so if last week you were working on relational databases, Postgres in particular, has anyone successfully translated that work into a working database for their capstone? As in their capstone calls out to Postgres and does something with it?
I think we all have a little element of that.
Okay.
You're not sure about how many of us have relational ones.
Okay, Postgres is a relational database. So if you're talking to Postgres, then you've ticked that box. The reason why I ask is sometimes it can be a little difficult when you get to your capstone to find a way to leverage Postgres. Like sometimes there's good ideas that for your capstone that just don't really need a database. So sometimes folks kind of can be grasping for, okay, well, what would I use a database for? But it doesn't sound like a problem that anybody is experiencing. Uh, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking over the last week at what all Max covered. You use the client as well. Oh, the like the SQLize client. Oh, clerk for logging in. Right, right. Okay. Um, so in previous cohorts, we've used Auth0. It's interesting to hear. Was Ryan the one that talked about clerk? What did y'all think about that? Was that pretty easy to integrate with your capstone?
I thought it was easy for mines. Like I just needed a simple like login or create an account. So it was pretty simple, like for me to integrate it in mines.
So it's a library that you add to the front end. Does it redirect you to sign in with like Google or the username, password, that sort of thing?
Yep, and you can do like GitHub. I think like all the major like ones, like you can pick and choose which ones you want to have, like you be able to sign in like on it's like Google, GitHub, and there's some other ones as well.
Oh, that's really cool. It's nice because then you kind of start to add that layer of interactivity to your website. Like you're able to store metadata about the user, like what they signed up for, or what you want to bill them for. Uh, yeah, that's pretty sick. Um, okay. Says connecting, cool. There we go. What I'm looking for. All right. Auth. Okay, so you're working on auth, and then man, you guys have been all over the place the last couple of weeks. That's awesome. So blog project mostly though. So if I start talking about the blog front end and the blog back end, that's going to make sense to people. Cool. All right. Let me go ahead and get started then. If there's no other questions or yeah, if there's no other questions, we can go ahead and jump in. Otherwise, we've got a couple more minutes if anybody wants to talk about anything else from last couple weeks. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Node.js expert, but I've worked on it a little bit. So if there's any questions related to the capstone or what we're working on this week, feel free to ask. All right. Go ahead and share my screen and load this up a little bit. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, welcome back. I'm not in New York. I'm special. Turn it over to Latonia. Latonia, I'm sure you've been also in here.
I'm sorry, struggling with my mouse. That was your whole intro, Nate?
Yeah, they don't get as much of a good one the second time around.
So I guess I have some changes. I've been working on this entrepreneurial stuff for a minute, but things are falling into place. I have classes on Wednesdays now. It's a classes and intensive for my business plan. So I actually won't be, I wasn't on the last Wednesday I was supposed to be on, so I won't be here tomorrow. But I feel like everything is falling into place. I'm super excited. I'm able to include my coding experience into it because it's multimedia solutions. So, and I love just doing anything that's creative. So I'm like really, really excited about it. And I've been getting like proposal requests and stuff. So it's just really exciting. I'm hoping that it kind of takes off. But that's kind of like, I guess, like a tangent thing you can do once you get your certification. Try to loop it in that way. So yeah.
Very cool. Man, it's always interesting, Latonia, to see what the latest stuff you're working on is.
Thank you. Did I tell you I'm in a flying guild now? I'm a part of a guild to fly.
For
So
drone or for planes?
yeah, for drone, but we plan to expand it so I might become like a small craft pilot. Like, I
Oh,
don't
that's
know. We'll
cool.
see. I really don't want to do that. I think I want to stick with the drones. I don't know that I physically want to be in the air, but I think I've talked enough this session, so I'll shut up now.
Oh no, you're good. So quick edit. What are we doing the next couple days? So we've kind of taken a quick turn on the schedule. I was supposed to be teaching starting tomorrow through the next week, but as it turns out, the material that I've been working on is actually a lot more condensed than I was anticipating. Most of the time, I'm teaching Amazon Web Services, or in the past, I have been teaching Amazon Web Services. We're trying something new, and we're going to deploy to two new services called Fly and Netlify. And there's really they're just not very complicated platforms. Fingers crossed, they're just not very complicated platforms. So we're kind of revising the schedule, and this should be good news to everyone that may or may not be stressing out about their capstone. That means that as it stands right now, you'll probably get all of next week to work on your capstone. So that should be good news. I'm hoping people are going to use that time to make sure that their capstones are fully deployed and ready to go for graduation day. But my hope for this week, my goal is very similar to the last time that we met. The last time that we met, y'all were doing some, and we can say it now because that was then and this is now. But y'all were doing some basic things, right? Just front end. Now that we're here, we're doing much more complicated things, right? We've got a front end and a back end plus a database. So the deployment landscape is a bit more complex, but the agenda is still the same. I show up, I help you get all your stuff deployed, make sure that we all cross the finish line for deploying the capstone, and then I have to say goodbye. Goodbye again. So that's the plan. We're going to start off again. We're going to start off with talking about Git, and that is because there's some pretty cool stuff similar to GitHub Pages when we were working with it last. There's some pretty cool stuff you could do with it in terms of automating the deploys. So we're going to talk about Git briefly today, and then we're going to get started on the deploys for the backend. And then tomorrow we're going to move on to deploys for the front end, followed with some bonus concepts in there, some things that I think are just kind of important but don't really fit in with these two platforms. And then just like last time, if we're going to go person by person, making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. So that will be on Thursday. We will use all of Thursday to make sure that everyone is fully deployed. All right. Any questions so far about the proposed schedule? Lush.
I don't have a clerk applied on mine. Should I like wait until I apply that and then deploy it, or does it not matter?
I don't think that it matters. If you need authentication to protect you from something, then maybe hold off, but my guess is you don't.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, I don't need
Okay. Okay. Also, has Max posted any kind of rubric or requirements for the capstone? Like it needs to have X, Y, and Z, that sort of thing? I'm looking real unprepared, folks. Please bear with me. If anybody has a link.
There are some heads being shaken.
Okay.
I'll
Does
look.
any
I'll check now.
We
Okay.
have those in our Canva. I have the Canva app. I'm looking at it right now, but I guess I'll try to figure out how to get it to you.
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Okay.
I think he posted it in Slack too. Oh, she already got it. Never mind. So I was gonna go look
Thank
at
you.
Slack.
I'll pop this over on the side. I just want that for my own reference because I want to make sure that I don't accidentally say something wrong. Okay. All right. All right, let's jump into Git. So remembering what we did the last time that I saw all of you. Now not going to just curious. Has anybody used GitHub since the last time they saw me? Anybody? Shay, sure, Palash, okay. Few people. So used GitHub. Okay. Has anybody pushed to GitHub since the last time that I saw you?
Yeah, actually, I work out of GitHub every time I work on my capstone from GitHub desktop. So I have to push and commit every time.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That is that's great news. So then what I'm about to go through should be fairly standard. Couple of slides here. Here's the link. I should have probably handed this out much earlier in the class. Here is the link to the slides if you want to follow along instead of try to stare at my shared window. But here are all the links to some of the stuff that we looked at last time, specifically each of the kind of big operations that we do with Git, like creating repos, so on and so forth. Excuse me. So if you want to catch up on Git, or if what we're doing just seems completely foreign to you and you've kind of lost some of that knowledge, feel free to pop open the link to these slides, click into some of this, and it will take you back to the old spreadsheet that we were working on last time. Quick reminder about terminology. I'm not going to go through this because everybody should. Thank you very much. Everybody should kind of already know some of this terminology, but if you don't remember it, feel free to come back and refresh yourself. So what we need to do for today, and just in general over the next couple of days, we're going to deploy the blog. We're not going to jump straight into the capstone yet. And the reason why is I want to be able to troubleshoot with everyone based off of the blog for now. So we're going to just deploy the blog front end and the blog back end. And then on your own time and sometime on Thursday, that's when we'll go through and set up the capstones. But for right now, what we're gonna work from is the blog front end and the blog back end. So to do that, we're going to set up repos for both the front end and the back end. And to work with Git, we need to use some kind of program. We're going to use GitHub Desktop. So if you still have that, go ahead and open that up. Make sure you're logged into your github.com account, and then we'll kind of be ready to get started on this exercise. Now, one question that I get is, why do we need to have two repos? Does anybody have any thoughts or ideas on that? Two repos as opposed to one big repo called blog.
Would it be easier to manage? Oh, someone said one for practice.
One for practice. Alize, what I'm talking about here is, if you can see on my screen, I've got a blog front end and a blog back end repo. So I've split my code into yeah. So you don't mix it up. So one is Node.js and one is JavaScript or ES6. I guess Node.js is also ES6, but one is backend and one is front end. The reason why we aren't mixing the two of them is not because we can't. We could throw both of these together in the same repo, but the reason why is because when we go to do our deploys, remember with GitHub Pages, how you could only set up one website for that repo? We're going to hit the same problem here. If we shove both, and for the capstone as well, if we shove both our front end and our back end code into the same repo, we're going to run into issues where we're going to set that repo up to deploy, but we actually have two places we want our code to go to. We're going to have our front end code going to a website called Netlify, and then our back end going to a website called Fly. We could achieve this in the same repo. It's just really messy, and it's kind of hard to do. So the reason why we pick breaking these projects out into two repos, kind of for cleanliness, kind of for separation of concerns, where we move things into their individual boxes, but mostly it's for the ergonomics of the deploy. It's primarily just a mechanism for how we're going to do our deploys. Natasha?
Okay, so I understand keeping them separate for not mixing up the code, but why do we send them to two different places? Do they do different things in those places?
Good question. Yeah. Yep. Great question. It's because front end and back end code needs to be treated a little bit differently. Remember with front end code, remember that front end code is pretty fixed. It's sort of this bundle that gets pushed up to the internet. Users download it and execute it in their browser. That's client side code. That's JavaScript, right? The backend code is different. The backend code doesn't, we don't bundle it up, shove it on the internet, and have users download and run node server.js on their machine, right?
Right.
The backend code's different. The backend code lives somewhere on some server. Same with the database. We don't zip up the Postgres database, push it to the internet, and download it through the browser, and then users do brew, start Postgres. You know, they don't run their own Postgres database on the machine. So it's two different systems. So that's why we're going to end up deploying to two different places. The front end code is going to go to one place, and the back end code needs to go somewhere else because they're just two different types of animals.
Understood.
Great question.
Thanks.
And I'm going to throw out a big $1 million word here: monorepo. This is something that you see at companies that do the opposite of what I'm talking about here. Monorepos are where you have one GitHub repo, but it contains tons and tons of code bases in it, tons of different programs in it. There's no right or wrong answer here. Just for this class and just for the capstone, we're going to create two separate repos. We're going to break it up by front end and back end. Okay. So where can we get the block files? This is mostly for me because I didn't know where you guys were putting the code for the front end and back end, but here is the link to it. I'll post this in Zoom chat. So if you don't have the front end and back end code, you can come grab it from here. And it looks like it was updated about 5 days ago. So make sure that however you're getting this, you get the latest code here.
I have a quick question about this. So when we go to like if we're taking the files directly from GitHub, are we downloading them as raw files?
Good question. Yeah, you really have two options here, right? Like you could do this the GitHub website way, right? Which is to come in here, click on these folders. Well, actually, I don't think you could do it from this page. I think you have to go all the way to the top of this and then do something like download zip. That's one method of getting the code. But we're on week 21, and I don't think anybody should be doing it that way. We all know that this is a GitHub repo, and so we can pull this down using GitHub Desktop, right? We can go to GitHub Desktop, clone repository. We can grab this link. This folder contains files. Let's see, it will look more like that. There we go. And I think the reason why this is upset is because I already have a clone of this. Yeah, I already have a clone of this on my machine. So I'll just put it into this folder. Copy.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I did not know I was off mute.
You're good. So you can download it using GitHub Desktop, and then of course, just like normal, open it up, and there's all the folders. So
First
either
of
way
all, I'm
works.
sorry,
Okay.
Allie, can we please keep the British accent, please? That was awesome.
Yo, I'm cracking up right now.
It was a random Peppa Pig moment. So funny.
So either way works. If you want to grab it through the website, you could do it that way. Alternatively, I would be expecting most folks to be able to come in here and do this using GitHub Desktop.
Can you show one more time using GitHub?
Yeah, in fact, let me reset here so that this is a clean start to finish here, because it looked a little wonky because I actually have a copy of this already downloaded. So let me back up for a second. From within GitHub Desktop, assuming you have GitHub Desktop open, click up here on the top left on the repo picker. There's the add box. You could do clone repository, you could do add existing repository, it doesn't matter. Just click on one of them. I'm going to click on the clone repository. And then the name of this is hack upstate CIC-C5. So I could type that in here, hack upstate CIC-C5. And then click clone, and that will pull it down to your machine. And then you could show in Finder if that's how you want to navigate and grab those files. Good enough.
I'm sorry, you clicked on URL and then you typed that in? Because mine was saying like couldn't find. So
Let me drop this one more time. So I think you could do one of two ways. You can either type it out exactly how you see it up here, hackupstate/CIC-C5, or you could take that URL and paste it into there. So like take this and paste it directly into that URL box. Does that make it able to be downloaded?
yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Even mine doesn't. It says sorry, I can't find any repository matching this.
So it looks exactly, are you on the URL tab on the far right? And you've pasted in HTTPS, all this sort of stuff?
I am. Works. Thank you.
Yep. Tasha, you want to share your screen real quick? If you're able to. Nice.
I
I'm
don't know
looking,
if I shared the right one.
yeah, I'm looking at Chrome.
Okay, sorry. Let me fix that. Desktop one. Nope, nope, nope.
GitHub Desktop.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Add, clone, yep. Paste. Chop it down. Go back to cancel. Go back to add and clone, and then for that URL, paste it in again, but chop it down all the way back to the CIC5. So drop from blob. Yep, keep going all the way until you get to CICC5. Perfect. Try that. There's some files. Now, if you click show in Finder,
Mm-hmm.
here's all those files on your computer. So you now have an up-to-date copy of that careers in code cohort 5 folder. Keep this Finder window handy. We're about to use it.
Thanks, Nate.
All right.
Nate, do you see Shannon's message?
I do not. Let's see. Authentication failed. Same thing. Is the URL good?
I did go back and do the I went back and did when Natasha's came up and I canceled it, and I went and did the same thing. I deleted the end of the URL.
Mhm.
And now it says no local changes, and I don't know if I'm supposed to click on something. I don't know if I missed a step.
Nope, you're in the right spot. When it says no
Because
local
it gives me
changes,
3 different options
click show and finder. Do you see
for
like
open in Visual Studio or show and finder or view on GitHub.
when you click show and finder, do you see like
I
week
can't hear
2,
him now.
3?
Shoot.
Ba, 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 da, ba, ba. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. When you click show and finder, do you see all the little folders that say like day 2, 3, 4, all that?
Nope.
Week 2, week 3, W2? No. You want to share your screen?
Yep.
Click show and finder. And I think you've got me locked to just looking at GitHub desktop, but if you see a finder window open somewhere,
Okay, it opened on my other screen, but behind Zoom.
okay, in that finder window, do you see like W2, W3, all that?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. You're all set. That's exactly where you need to be.
Thanks.
All right.
I'm like, no, went behind my fucking Zoom.
Oh, that happens. I wouldn't beat yourself up about it. All right. So with that in mind, sorry, that was really funny. Okay, let's create the blog backend and blog front end repos. So you just saw where to get the files. Now let's go and create a couple of repos to hold the blog backend and the blog front end. How do we create repos? There's 2 ways. We can do it through GitHub Desktop online. There's 3 ways. We can do it through the terminal if we really want, but we can also do it through GitHub Desktop. But my favorite approach is to just do it through github.com because it kind of is the simplest. So we're going to go and make 2 repos. We're going to make a blog backend and a blog front end. The steps for doing this, github.com, go up to the top right where the plus icon is here, click create new repository. And I don't care which one you start with. I'm going to start with blog front end. Apparently I already have one, so I'm going to go and nuke that really quick. Sorry about that. I'm guessing that I'm also going to have a blog backend that I need to delete as well. Let's make sure that I do that. Yep. Go delete this. Okay. There we go. All right. So back where we were, create a new repository, blog front end. We'll create a brand new empty repo, making sure that we set it to public. And we always add a README file. Does anybody remember why this README file step is important? Shay, very nice. You already had that in chat a minute ago. Does anybody remember why? Alternatively, since the last time that I spoke to y'all, has anybody made one without a README file and found out how difficult it is?
Yeah, I tried. It's like hard to like upload stuff to it then.
Yeah, exactly. It drops you into this weird message where you need to run a bunch of terminal commands in order to fix it. But exactly like people are posting, it sets up the repo with a file and it gives it a description, that README that shows up when you go and visit it. So it initializes it with the brand new file And that just makes setting it up a whole lot easier. So don't forget to click that. All right, I'm gonna breeze through this real quick because I'm sure folks are pretty familiar with creating new repos. So there's my front end. I'm gonna also go and create a back end as well. And you're welcome to set this to private if you want, but it's really handy if you set it to public because then I can help if any issues arise. All right, so I've got a blog backend and a blog front end. I'll give
Hey, Nate, I'm sorry, Nate.
Okay.
Nate, can you hear me?
I can. Yep.
Oh, okay. It's Latonia. Can you just do a really brief overview to catch Corwin up? Because he just jumped on. So just real brief what we're doing so he knows what we're looking at.
Sure. Hey, Corbin. We're getting refreshed with GitHub Desktop. So go ahead and pop open GitHub Desktop. Make sure that you're still signed in and all of that. We're starting deploys for the blog front end and the blog back end. We're going to all work off of the same example code. We're going to work off of the blog, and then additionally, students can work on the capstone, deploying the capstone with on their own free time. That makes sense. Cool. So to get caught up, really just go and create 2 GitHub repos, create a blog front end and a blog back end. And then that's it. That's all we're at right now. Okay. So recall that repos are special. They exist on GitHub and they exist on your machine. You push and pull on those repos in order to keep the two in sync. So what we've done is we've created the repos on GitHub. Now we need to clone them down to our machine where we'll then push, we'll add code to them and push them back up to GitHub. So we need to finish this special pairing. We need to finish this special linking, that clone step between the two. So we got the GitHub. Let's go do this, the local repos on our machine. So let's clone down these repos. Open up your GitHub desktop. Let's go up to that repo picker up on the left. And let's go in and clone down those repositories that we just made. So we'll again go to clone repository. This time, I'm going to do it off of the URL tab. So when you open up clone a repository, 3 tabs, click on the rightmost one, URL. Start typing in your GitHub username / and then I'm going to clone down the blog front end first. If it says no local changes, good, where you want to be. That's what you should see. And then up in the top left, blog front end. Do the same for the back end. The URL is your username / and then whatever you called the blog front end and the blog back end. Hopefully you just called them exactly that, blog front end and blog back end. You can find out what the URL looks like though by going to GitHub and looking at your username. And you can actually just copy it straight from the URL in the browser. So for example, I could just copy that and bring it back over here. Does that make sense? Is everybody able to clone down their back end and their front end?
Was I supposed to be making those on the desktop or the like the app?
So we were making them on github.com. So we were going over to github.com, clicking the plus button up here in the top.
Mm-hmm.
and creating the two repositories from github.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Once you create them on github.com, then you clone them down into GitHub Desktop. All right. Gonna just give another minute or so for folks to get their stuff set up. Here's what you're looking for. You'll know that you've done everything correct if you could do the following. Open up GitHub Desktop, click on that repo picker up on the left side. And if you see your GitHub username, blog backend, blog front end, if you see those two things in there, you're golden. If you don't see those things, let me know, or take the next couple of seconds to set that up. All right, let's copy some code into these repos. I'm going to start with the front end. What we need to do is hydrate or add some files to these. So let's start with the front end. Over on the left, select blog front end. Click show in Finder or open in VS Code, you'll notice that there's nothing in here. It's just the README right now. So that's not good. We need front end code here. So this is where we'll copy code from the CIC5 repo. To do that, I'm going to go to my repo picker. I'm going to switch over to CIC C5 and I'm going to click show in Finder. I'm going to get that Finder window open that contains all of the code y'all have worked on with Max thus far. I'm going to go to week 20, day 4, or let's see, week 20, I think day 3, is that the most recent? Probably. Well, I'm going to start from there. Week 20, day 3, I'm going to go to the front end code here. I'm going to grab all the files in here and I'm going to drop them into my blog front end. And I'm getting some messages asking me if I want to replace the README. I'm going to say yes. I don't think the README really has anything too special right now, so not really concerned with that.
I have a question. So you
Yeah.
copied everything that was in the front end, you copied all of those files and
I
put them
copied all of it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm taking it from the week 20, day 3. I'm taking it from that blog front end, take all those files, and I'm going and putting it in my blog front end, my new repo, my blog front end repo.
Nate, if they did something in their README and they wanted to keep it, does it matter if they just keep the one they have versus using the new one, or is that one like tied to it in some kind of way?
It's not tied. Good point. It's not tied in any way. If you have some README that you'd prefer, feel free to use that one. My guess is if you're copying from the careers and code repo, that is probably the one that you want to use because I mean we just made a README, so unless you filled it out just now, I'm assuming that that it'll be okay. Tara?
I was getting the error that the following paths aren't Git repositories.
Do you mind
I
showing me
just was
what you mean?
supposed to copy them and drag them right over to the desktop, right?
Exactly. Well, from Finder window to Finder window.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Sorry.
And let me highlight that real quick. I'm gonna actually do this one more time, just so everyone has a chance to see this if they missed it the first time. Just get all reset here. Okay. So if you don't have your Finder window set up, let me show you how to do that real one more time. Get rid of these changes. Sorry, these keep popping up. Okay. So we need to have two Finder windows. We're copying code from the CIC5 repo into our blog front end, that brand new repo that we just made. So we need to get two Finder windows open. We need to drag and drop. So you could start in any order here, but I'm going to start with the CIC C5 Finder window first. So I'm going to go into GitHub Desktop. I'm going to select that repo. So this is where we're going to get the code from. Click that Show in Finder window. And then notice how this is starting out with all the different weeks. So I'm going to click into week 20, day 3, blog front end. And I got some code in here. So this is where I'm going to be stealing the code from. So I'll put that over to the left. So that's the first window. Back at GitHub Desktop, let's go over to the blog front end. We know this is the empty repo that we just created that's going to house all of our front end code that we're going to deploy. So looking at the blog front end, we'll click Show in Finder. Now we've got a second Finder window open. It should just have a README in it. Take all the stuff from CIC5 and drag it over. If it asks you if you want to replace it, feel free to keep both or replace, whichever. I'm going to just replace it. If you did it right, what you'll see in GitHub Desktop is blog front end looks like it's getting a whole bunch of new files added. That's technically true. We're adding a whole bunch of new files to this repo. So you should see in GitHub Desktop, if you click and make sure that you're selected on the blog front end repo, you should see a whole bunch of green pluses here. From Git's perspective, we just added a bunch of files. So that's correct.
Nate,
Anybody
Corin
have
had a question.
Yeah, go for it.
It said this folder contains files. It can only clone in these systems. It was a new repository.
Go ahead and share your screen. I'm assuming it's because you have something that was cloned there with that same name already. For other folks that were able to complete that successfully, feel free to do that for the backend too. Feel free to copy over the files from the backend into the backend repo. Okay, Corwin, you're cloning down the front end and the backend repos, correct?
Yeah, so I had made it. Hold on, let me open.
I can only see GitHub Desktop right now.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to find it real quick.
Blog backend. Okay, cool. So you created this. I'm assuming you also have a blog front end repo as well. Okay, cool. So hop back to GitHub Desktop. I think you're just sharing the Chrome window. I might be wrong. There we go. Okay. Yep. Click Add up at the top left. Let's link up those two. So go with the clone repository And then, yep, and for URL, copy and paste that URL from github.com. So the page that you were just looking at a second ago. Feel free to share a desktop, like instead of like just individual windows. Oh, were you able to clone it, Coral? Yeah, okay. Don't forget to also
Yeah,
do the
thank
same
you.
thing for the back end. Cool. Danny?
So I think I've missed some steps, so I'm going to share my screen and
Go for it. And I'm gonna ask the class to help a little bit too here. See if oh, this looks great. So you have a blog front end that looks great. Okay.
I just don't
You
know.
have you have blog front end highlighted back behind you. So those are going to be your source files. That makes sense. So you've got GitHub desktop, your mouse over the GitHub desktop, click show in Finder. Give us that Finder window. Okay, this is empty. It has that README in there, but this is where we want the files to go. So the highlighted files behind you, yes, that to exactly, yes.
And then it says, do I want to replace?
Yeah, whatever you want. Replace is kind of the easiest.
All
Cool.
right.
If you click back to the blog front end, that GitHub desktop window back behind you. Yep. Notice how it has a bunch of green pluses because get like, oh, you're adding a bunch of stuff to this folder. That's exactly where you should be right now.
Okay, excellent. So it wasn't as far back as I thought.
No, you're right on. That's perfect.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep, you're welcome. Shannon?
Okay, so I'm trying to access the back end. I just don't know where I'm supposed to click or what I'm at.
Can you show me?
Oh, why is it?
Is that is yours muted?
Yeah.
I know who's sitting next to you. Oh wow, now I really know who's sitting next to him. That's clever.
Problem fixed. Okay, so anyways, can I share my screen? Jeez.
Yes, please.
Today's the day.
Cool. You're looking at the CIC C5. Okay. Go and this looks, click on the go up to the top, right to the top of the screen. And click on the top of the screen, like the top of the window, all the way at the very top. Yeah. Go and click on repository, the repository tab on that menu bar to the left. To the left, more to the left. Over by where it says file, edit view, click on repository. The repository tab, right by 3, file, edit, view, repository. To the right, more to the right.
Like, I don't.
Oh, go back and click on GitHub desktop.
Okay.
There you go. Now back up to the top. See where it says file, edit, view. There you go. Click show in Finder. That Finder window, if you drag that over, okay, here's the source code. So go jump to week 20. So click into that week 20 folder. Day 3. Let's do the front end first. So blog front end.
I do have that one already.
Oh, okay. So we're working on the back end. Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
There.
Keep
Okay.
this here. And then go back to the repo picker where you've got CIC C5 selected right now.
Right here.
Current repository. Yep. Up. See in the top left corner, it says current repository CIC-C5. Click on that. Switch to blog backend. Yep. Now you're in that special folder, show in Finder. Exactly. Paste.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Nice job. Natasha, did you see how the repo got cloned?
I think I already did it and I'm trying to redo it and it's telling me that there's stuff already in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So just don't reclone it. If you've got a good clone there, just use that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Shannon, your hand is still up. I'm assuming you're good though. Okay, cool. Let me go back to share my screen. All right, so it might look a little confusing, but your blog front end should have a bunch of changed files because it thinks that you're adding a bunch. I'm gonna go and quickly add all the files to my blog backend because I haven't done that yet. So to do that, I'm gonna start by opening up a Finder window for the backend code. Let me go to week 20, day 3, blog backend. Okay, here's my backend code. Then I'm going to go switch to the backend, open that in Finder, and then I'm going to drag and drop all of this over. Now my blog backend thinks that it has a bunch of files added. All right. So what do we need to do now? Does anybody know? We're kind of missing a crucial step here. This being Git and all, what are we missing? We've got our 2 repos. We've copied
commit?
files over. Commit, yes. Commit and
Push.
push, exactly. Because if we just commit, if we just make the bundle on our machine, it won't show up on github.com. So we need to commit and push. We need to publish it up. So we got to do it in both places, right? We have to do it in the backend repo and in the front end repo because they're two separate places. So whatever you want to say for each commit message, for the blog backend, I'm going to say initializing with code from Max's PIC5 repo. Commit, click that push button. I'm going to go and do that for the front end as well. Initializing with Max's PIC5 repo. Now, if I go and look at my front end, we can see that just now I pushed a bunch of stuff. If I edit this to back end, we can see that there is a bunch of backend code that just got pushed up. This is the part where I'm going to stop, and here is a link to a Google spreadsheet. We're going to use this for tracking our deploys. We're going to start off with this being used for the blog deploys, and then later on in the week we're going to switch over and start filling this out with our capstone deploys. So for the GitHub front end link, go ahead and paste in the link to your blog front end and your blog back end. So for example, I'll post on that sheet an example. There's my front end link to the blog front end repo. Do the same for your back end. And also, if you know off the top of your head what your domain name is for your capstone, go ahead and throw that at the end. But just if you happen to have it handy, it's not super important right now. We're actually going to
Are we supposed to
deploy
be committing?
Go ahead.
We're supposed to be committing to name.
Yes, please commit and push for both the blog front end and the blog back end. Front end looks good. Back end looks good. Very nice.
I have a question. Our
Yep.
domain name is that one of the ones we purchased, or should we purchase another one?
That's going to be the domain name that you're going to use for your capstone. If you don't have one yet, that's also not a big deal, because we will have time to do that.
Because I know we did purchase a domain name, so we can do it to one of those, or
Yep. Yeah, that's why I was saying if you know it, just throw it in there. But if you aren't sure which one you want to use or which one will be the right one, feel free to omit it for now, and we'll come back to that. All right. Yeah, your personal domain name for your portfolio also counts. Yes, absolutely. Feel free to throw that in there if you want. Again, we're not making any kind of decision. I just want to have something there to be able to make sure that when you go to do the capstone or graduation, when you go to show that demo, I want to make sure that I have a link to it. Are we committing this? Yes. Yep. Sorry, I think I already answered that question. Just waiting on a couple more people to fill in. Brandy, were you able to get links on here?
Get the links on, I'm sorry, where?
On the Google spreadsheet that I pasted in Zoom chat. I can paste it again if you weren't able to see it.
Oh, all right, pulling it up now.
Perfect. Shannon.
So mine, I've pushed the back end and I'm working, and the front end is still working. It says it's pushing to origin total 33 and it's just been sitting there.
Oh, it's been spinning. Close GitHub desktop, reopen it. Try again. It might have already pushed.
Okay, I'll check that. Thank you.
Yep. Quarter, when we got the back end, do you also have a front end? Answer is yes, you do. I'll get that link. Oops. Amberlyn, you've got a blog front end. You also have a blog back end. You do. You're just working on doing the push for it.
Yes, except for I just tried what Shannon just tried to close it and then reopen it, and now it won't let me reopen my GitHub desktop. It says cannot be opened.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yes, please.
Desktop. Oh, cool. Error code -47. That's handy. Go ahead and click OK. I'm guessing it's like mid update or something. Double click GitHub desktop. Let's see. Third time's the charm. No. Okay. Spotlight. Hit OK, and then let's see. Command space and start typing GitHub desktop. That one. Okay. Looks like it's bricked. If you want to throw that in the trash and grab a new copy, that's probably the best idea here. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Just go
Yeah,
download.
just go to GitHub, Google GitHub desktop and grab a fresh copy. So yeah. Same thing for you, Tara. You might
Mine was
you might
asking for an
be
update, so I just updated it and reopened it, and now it pushed, so I'll put the link in there.
okay. One thing to be careful about here, Amberlynn, is I don't know if this is if you click on that download icon, what is it actually downloading? Yeah, the progress spinner up above. If you click on that,
I don't see it. Let me see.
it's just up in that. Oh yeah,
Oh.
because the zoom's in the way. Is it downloading? Yeah, it's downloading the X64. Click on the down below where it says download. Hit this Apple Silicon one. This guy.
Okay.
That might be the source of the issue. Yeah, ARM64, that's what you want. Try that. Alternatively, if you just click on it, it'll pop open, and then you can, I think you can just drag and drop that into applications. Drag that application right into the applications folder. Not the
This one
zip,
here.
but
Okay.
yeah, that right there. Perfect. Now try. Yeah, that looks doable. And then we were talking about this one was stuck, right? If you push origin here, is that any better?
Oh, this is where it stopped before. I thought it was going
Here's
so
a
much faster.
Well, here's a thought. Is it because there's node modules in here?
There
Nope,
there
it
it goes.
pushed. Yeah, I'm a little suspect here though. Show me click show and finder right here on the right, on this one right here in GitHub desktop, back where you were. Click on GitHub desktop behind that's the browser.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. GitHub desktop. So the thing that that right there. Click show and finder. Oh, caught red-handed. You have node modules in here, and that thing is huge. So that's why it's probably taking a while. And if other folks are hitting the same issue, this is probably because you were a good student, and over in your careers in code 5 folder, you were actually running the exercises, which probably required you to run npm install, which then produced this node modules folder. The node modules is all the libraries, right? It's all the stuff that you download in order to run the server. So you don't really want to commit and push this because it's huge. Like for example, Amberlynn, if you right click on the node modules folder, actually click off of it because right now it has all 5 things selected. Yeah, right click on it now and go click on get info. Yep. Let's see. Actually, this isn't too bad. It's only 19 megabytes. Okay, well, not too bad right now. Is it still tallying? No, it's just 19. Okay. Either way, if you have node modules in there, it can cause the pushes to take a little bit longer. So the workaround here is to right click on it and delete it, and then to also set what's called a git ignore. Has anybody heard of a git ignore? So for example, I'm sorry that I'm picking on you right now, Amberlyn, but if you click behind you on it back into GitHub desktop, yep. Notice how because you deleted node modules, Git is going, okay, where did all these files go? They just got deleted, right? If we don't want to track these files at all, we can create a special file that tells Git to ignore the node modules. So you won't ever see this big confusing diff over on the side. Alizé, you've seen it in Max's code. Yeah. So git ignore is a special file and it lets you just do exactly what it says, ignore things. Because when we run our code, we usually run npm install. We usually create that node modules folder, but we don't want Git to pay any attention to it. So Amberlyn, what I would have you do is go ahead and commit this change that you have right now. Commit this this diff and delete all these node modules. So just for the message, just say like wiping node modules or something. Perfect. Push that. All right. And then open up in Visual Studio Code. Yeah, go ahead and trust it. Cool. Now inside of blog backend, I want you to create a file. I want you to call it .gitignore, all one word. Perfect. So inside of here, just type the word node underscore modules, save.
Save?
Yep, save.
Okay.
All right. Now open up a terminal here.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, and then go back to GitHub Desktop and let's just confirm real quick what GitHub Desktop sees. So for everybody else following along, notice how we just got this new file in here, this .gitignore, and it just has the word node modules here, right? So go, Amberly, go back to your terminal. Go in the terminal, type in npm install. All right, notice how you just got that node modules folder back?
Yes.
See how that reappeared in Finder? Okay, go back to GitHub Desktop.
Okay.
Notice how Git doesn't see it anymore.
Yes.
So this special file .gitignore, if you put anything in there, you could put src, you could ignore the source folder, you could ignore db folder, you could ignore anything you want. But if you put node modules in here, it will do this real neat trick and you won't ever have to think about node modules again. So for anybody else following along, the secret sauce here, create a file, it has to be named .gitignore, and then you could put in there whatever you want. Yeah, go ahead and commit, add that gitignore to your repo and push that up. Now your pushes should be a lot faster because you're not trying to push a bunch of library code every single time. Thank you for letting me pick on you.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yes, Rain, we're finally utilizing that mystical file. I'm glad to be able to pull the covers back on it. Anybody that was following along that has questions about gitignore, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to check on that spreadsheet real quick and make sure that we're all just make sure that we're all pretty much there. So quota, I think it's a good idea to do it. In fact, I think it's a good idea to do it for both your front end and your back end. And what I mean is, let me show you on my machine real quick because I want to do it as well. Before I do that, somebody raised their hand. Shay?
After the we named the file and we opened up the terminal and put npm install, what did we have to do after that?
Okay, let me show you. I'm gonna run through it real quick on my repos. So I'm actually going to do it on the blog front end first, and then I'll go and do it on the blog back end as well. But what I'm doing is I'm opening up Visual Studio Code, and I'm just going and creating a new file in here. The name of the file has to be get ignored, and it has to sit at the top of the repo, the top of the folder. So I've got my get ignore open. I'm going to create an entry in here. I'm just going to say node modules. I want get to ignore node modules. Notice over here in GitHub desktop, yep, created a new file. It's called .gitignore. Nothing crazy there. Now, if I open up a terminal and I do npm install, notice how I suddenly have my node modules folder. It just got created here. But over here on the left, Git isn't tracking it. So Git isn't paying attention to that node modules folder anymore. And that's awesome because the node modules folder is not important code to my Git repo. So it's great that we're ignoring it. And you can kind of see VS Code grays it out a little bit to show that it's not tracking it anymore. In npm install, there's also a shortcut you could do npm I, that's the same thing, or you could do npm install. Either one will work. But npm install is that command goes and looks up your package JSON, looks at all the libraries that you use, and it downloads a copy of all of those libraries into this node modules folder. We don't need to track that in Git. So I'm just going to do that for the front end and the back end because I don't want to be tracking those files through Git. So I'm going to do the same thing for the back end.
And Nate, if someone already has them in their repo, should they be worried about trying to get it out, or is it okay just to ignore them being in there?
Yeah, it's up to you. If you want to ignore, if you already have the node modules in there, feel free to ignore it.
Hi. That's fine.
Amberlyn, you're not muted.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay. If you did accidentally commit the node modules, delete the node modules, commit and push, so you no longer have the node modules on github.com. So delete node modules, commit and push it, and then follow the same step again. Create a .gitignore, throw in the words node modules. So we tell Git to not track it anymore. And same thing for the backend. Now, whenever I run, let's open up a new terminal. Now, whenever I run npm install, notice how I get my node modules folder, but GitHub desktop doesn't care. So you don't have to do this, but it will make it a lot cleaner. Okay. So at this point, we should all have front end and back end repos with some code in them. Just gonna pick on a couple more people. It looks like we all pretty much have this set up. Brandolin, were you able to create those repos?
Yeah, I pasted in the thing.
Did you make them private?
Not on purpose. I thought at least one of them I didn't think they were.
It's not a big deal if you did. If you go to your repo and click on settings in the top right, and there's like a visibility setting down at the bottom. Do you see what I'm talking about? if you click change visibility, you should be able to set it to public.
Okay. Backend. That's good.
Yep, I can see the blog backend now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. I thought when I did it, I checked the whatever to make it public, I guess not. Okay, front end should also be good.
Affirmative. Perfect. Is that everybody? I think everybody's. Alize, were you able to create and add them to the spreadsheet?
Sorry, I'm actually still cooking right now, so I'm just following along in the background.
Okay.
But later on, I'll just rewatch the video and then I'll just have everything set up for tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's keep going unless anybody has any other questions. Actually, we only have a couple more minutes before break. Let's just go ahead and break, and we will be back at 7:15. Does that sound right? Time zone math.
That sounds good.
Oh, Nate, I'm sorry. To be back at what time? 7:25?
7:15. And I'm gonna actually just share my screen and I'll throw that up here.
Oh, I can't hear you. It could be me though.
Oh, I think my
Oh,
voice, my stuff
7:15.
works.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Does anybody think that they could write code that would make this valid node? Or better yet, does anybody think that they could write code that would make this valid JavaScript?
But add a comment like before and after it, a couple slashes before every line.
I'm saying that if I gave you this in an interview and I said, Balash, I want you to make it so that this code doesn't throw an error, could you define a function called back that would make this work? For example, if I opened up the developer tools here, let me grab. I think I can get developer tools somewhere. Here we go. And I paste this in right now. Of course, it says back is undefined, right? The function back does not exist. I just made that up because I was trying to be cutesy for the little message for the break. But does anybody think they could actually write a function called back that would make this legal?
Did you resume recording?
Oh, yeah, good point. I didn't want this little tangent that I'm going on to be in the recording. So I intentionally haven't started it yet. Nobody?
Like date to locale string.
So if I said write the function back, that would make this legal. That would make this code valid. Anybody think they could do it? It doesn't even have to work. It just needs to not throw an error in the JavaScript console. Anyways, that's for anybody out there that wants to take the challenge. Uh here is the code. If somebody gives me a block of code that I can paste in here and then I can run this function again and it passes, I will give you 10 points.
Towards
All
what?
right, let me
Did you see
resume.
Palash put something in the chat?
Date to locale string. Yeah, but plus you're trying to make the code actually do something. I'm saying just make it so that this um this code could be executed without throwing an error. I don't care if it actually does anything or not. Just make it so that it doesn't throw an error. Is that too ambiguous? Is that confusing? It's confusing? Okay. Am I recording right now? Let me stop sharing. Stop recording. Okay. Would anybody like to see what I'm talking about? Have I intrigued? Okay, I've intrigued a couple people. All right. We'll do this really quick because I don't want to distract from what we're trying to accomplish tonight. Okay, so if we're in an interview and I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna pick on you, Palash. If I'm interviewing you, Palash, and I say, okay, Palash, I want you to write me a function that does that makes this valid. Well, let's look at what we would need in order to make this code work. So the first thing we notice when we look at this is there's some kind of function called back, right? That doesn't exist. It says back is not defined. So we would need to start by writing a function called back, right? So let's do that. Let's make a function called back. It won't do anything, but let's just make a function called back. Now, if we run this code again, it says back is undefined. Let's create a variable called back. That doesn't do anything. Oh, redeclaration of var back. Why is it not? Yeah, there we go. Back. There we go. Back is undefined. Okay. We are still hitting some sort of issue here where it says back is undefined, but clearly back is, oh, it's because back is evaluating to undefined, right? Back doesn't actually return anything. It's totally undefined. But either way, that's step one, right? We've declared a function called back. So now this part is correct, right? So we now have the first part of this function. So we would start by declaring some sort of function called back. Then what happens? There's a dot at. So how could we satisfy this dot at? Does anybody know? What will we need to do to our function back in order to be able to call dot at?
An object.
Right,
Check
we
the
need
chat.
an object.
Yep, Palash said it.
Okay, okay, great. I don't have the Slack chat pulled up easily to see. Yeah, exactly. We need to return some sort of object that has the property at on it. So let's take our function back and let's make it return some sort of object. Oops. Editing and this is a little tricky. All right, so let's have the at return something. Let's just have it return the number 1 for now. Okay, so now if we do back, notice how it returns an object. And now if we do back.at, it returns the number 1. So we're part of the way there, right? Now we need to also have the function hour and the function minute on this. So does anybody know what we need to modify in this function? How can we keep going deeper? Taylor, we're goofing around, to be honest. We're code golfing right now. Modify the at. Exactly, Shay. Exactly. So instead of just having it return 1, we now need to have it return something that has the functions hour and min on it. So we need, exactly, we're doing some code golf, some tomfoolery right now. Thank you all for humoring me for a minute here. So we need to turn at also into a function, right? Because whatever dot at and then dot hour or whatever on in addition to the at, we also need to tag an object on there as well. So at needs to be an object, and we can also create an hour function, right? That does something like maybe it just returns the number 12. I don't know. So now we're at the point where we could do this, right? That's now valid. Now, how do we make this dot min also work? Replace the value of hour with min. That's good intuition, so we could do that. But let's go. Yeah, all right. But now we've broken the hour function, right? Because we've replaced hour hour with min. But now we could technically do this, right? We could do back dot at min. That's now a thing and it returns 12.
No, I meant the value of hours, which is like function return 12.
Oh, exactly. Yep. So we need to go one level deeper. Let me see if I can format this. So hour also returns a function, or sorry, returns an object. And that object contains the min function. So now can we do the code that I pasted earlier? Have we written a function that now lets us run that code? Runs on my machine. All right, thank you all for humoring me. I'm sorry for distracting. That is just a taste of what sometimes I have encountered in my experience on coding interviews, where they'll say, okay, here's what the code looks like, now make it work. Here's what a function, here's an example function, write the actual code to make whatever that function is pass.
And did they let you ask questions when they gave you the assignment, or were you just kind of like?
Absolutely, and you're encouraged to, similar to what we were doing just now. You're encouraged to, right? Because some further questions might have been, what hours are valid? Are we talking like, are we talking about like AM, PM? Or are we talking military? So asking those kinds of questions in the interview is important. But yeah, you're totally allowed to ask questions. That's just a taste. All right. It is, honestly, it is kind of fun if you're the kind of person that likes to do that sort of thing, kind of reverse engineering stuff. And yeah, I think it's fun too. Come to office hours, and I'm happy to throw a bunch of those at you. Palash, you win all 10 internet points.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Okay, let's jump back into it. We're gonna try to get the backend deploy going before we call it for tonight. We got about a half hour, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, we've already talked about a bit of this the last time that we were here, but I'm gonna just quickly remind, or rather ask, why do we need to deploy? You can give me the exact same answer from week 7 if you still have that on your mind. Why are we deploying? For the end user, right? You want your capstone to actually get used, hoping you want your capstone to be used by someone. You want to be able to share it. Y'all know this. If it's sitting on your Mac, yeah, an end user's not going to be able to reach it. The other idea that I want to kick out there is it's less stress. If you have this stuff deployed, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but yeah, if you have this stuff deployed, when you go to do your demo on graduation, it'll be a lot less stressful. You won't have to worry about having your front end server and your back end server and Postgres. You won't have to worry about all those things on your Mac. You'll already have it deployed. All you have to do is on graduation day, go up to the podium, pull open your laptop, go to your domain, present your demo. That's it. You won't have to worry about on my Mac, did Postgres crash because it updated because Brew was trying to update version Postgres 15 to 16. You won't have to worry about any of that. So yes, it's the end user. Yes, it's the fact that our Macs, we talked about this last time, our Macs are not intended for hosting these websites. They're just meant for developing. We then push our stuff for the end user. Yes, it's all those things. Our Macs are not built our Macs are not intended to be put publicly out on the internet because there's all sorts of security concerns there. Yes, all those things are still true, But I want you to think of this as a way to literally on graduation day be able to go up there, go to your URL and be like, yep, it's live on the internet, it's working. Here's what I want to show you. If you want to go and visit it, it's live and it's ready to go. That looks really good in my opinion, and I think it will definitely lower the stress for you as well. One last note on that. I'm not saying that you can't deploy. I'm just saying that it will look really good if you do, and it will alleviate stress. Okay, done. I'm done talking about that. We talked about this last time. We talked about the different types of hosting. Just one thing though that we have to keep in mind is that we're not doing this standard file hosting anymore. We're going to be doing some of this for the front end code, but we're also going to be doing a bit more advanced deploys, because right now we don't really have an answer for how to deploy Postgres, for how to run our Node.js. Up until this point, it's all been on your Mac. And for your static files, for your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, pictures, videos, all that sort of stuff, GitHub Pages would be an acceptable solution for that sort of stuff. But GitHub Pages will not work for Postgres. It will not work for Node.js. It's because you need something to actually run those applications. There is a bunch of folks that will sell you computers. Will rent you computers for you to run your application on. Here are some of the kind of popular ones. We don't really talk about Heroku anymore because they're not cool. Google App Engine is kind of not as popular anymore. DigitalOcean is a pretty big one, and so is Amazon Web Services. All of these businesses will sell you a place for you to put your code, and it's not just static. Again, it's not just static HTML and CSS. We're talking Node.js, we're talking Python, Go, Rust, Crystal, any language you can think of, Ruby. They'll find a place for you to run your code. So what you're looking for when we talk about these backend languages is, again, not static file hosting, it's application hosting. It's actual servers for you to be able to run stuff on. So there's a little bit of a shift here that you've already worked on with Max. You're no longer just throwing out static files. You're also adding things like Clerk. You're adding things that make your website more dynamic. Just like with the blog, it's not just rendering static HTML anymore. It's also rendering the HTML in addition to all of those React hooks, all of that state logic going on in the front end. It's also calling all those APIs, it's rendering all the blog comments. We're no longer doing all this static stuff. We're switching to dynamic. And in order to do that, we need to have some kind of application host. Enter Fly. So quick spiel about what Fly is, if you've never heard about it. Application hosting. It has a free tier. That's what we're going to be using. We will end up putting a credit card down because there's just a couple little things that cost a little bit of money. But basically pay as you go. There's a very generous free tier. But then any additional charges on top of that is, again, pay as you go. And we will look at the pricing there in a bit. It is very cheap, or relatively cheap. They are a Series B startup, and something that's kind of interesting about them is that they do run their own hardware. And what I mean by that is you kind of have to go into the details a little bit. They don't actually go to the physical data centers. They don't actually go to the brick and mortar buildings that house all the computers. They don't actually go there and put in their own physical computers. From what I can tell, they contract with other providers that manage kind of the physical infrastructure. So they kind of run their own hardware, but they're not being totally honest. They do buy it from and have it managed from other companies. From what I can tell, they might actually run some of their own hardware, but for the most part, we could just kind of say, yeah, they do run their own hardware. They aren't. The reason why I'm making this distinction is because some of these other companies on this list, like for example, Heroku, they just resell Amazon. Some of these other companies, I don't know what DreamHost uses. I don't think they do their own hardware, but a lot of these companies, what they'll actually do is they'll just build on top of another company. So you might think that I'm using this one thing, but really under the hood, you're using servers from AWS or Google or somebody else. And it's important to know those things because based on who you are renting from and who actually owns the hardware, that kind of dictates what the cost will be. Some are more expensive than the others, so it's nice to know. It's nice to know exactly who is paying for the hardware. And for Fly specifically, we're going to use it for the backend code. It's possible to run your front end code on it. I did it a couple weeks ago. It's just not really great at it. So we're really just going to use it for the backend. Today, we're going to use it for the blog example, but we'll also use it for the capstone, the backend capstone code. And then Fly also comes with this really nifty Postgres offering. So we'll actually be able to run Postgres alongside it. All right, I've talked at you enough. Let's go and jump into the actual website. So here is the link to sign up. I strongly recommend that you sign up with GitHub just because it's the easiest way to get started. I love digital. As short aside, Latonia, I love DigitalOcean. Great call out. They have some of the best docs on the internet. Like their documentation is phenomenal. And I think the pricing is extremely fair. And when they say they run their own hardware, they run their own hardware down to the actual physical machines. So great call out. DigitalOcean, if you ever want to check them out, they're a great company.
You'll have to tell Max that, because when he showed me how to use it, he said you would shame him for showing me for showing me how to use it. He said you were a deploy snub, like you would be like, why are you using that?
Well, see, like obviously I've kind of downgraded my expectations. Like we were doing AWS last cohort, and I think that was miserable. But that's what I love to use. So anyways, it's more important that we find something that works for everybody. All right, so sign into fly.io. Once you are logged in, you should be staring at some sort of dashboard similar to this. One thing that I'm going to encourage everybody to do is after you've logged into Fly, go to the billing and switch to the hobby plan. So that is over on the billing tab. I'm going to move my window really quick to make sure I don't share anything too sensitive, like my credit card number. I might be able to just share this on my screen. Yeah, this isn't anything. Okay. So go over to the billing tab and add in a credit card. And just so you know, this is obviously reimbursable by the stipend that you have with Careers in Code. And after you get done with the capstone, if you don't want to use it anymore, you can always come in here and take your credit card out. But the reason why I mention it is because after you do a couple of deploys, you might need to be switched to the hobby plan. I ran into a couple little issues and they all just got solved by signing up for the hobby plan, which isn't committing you to spending any money. It's just in case you incur any additional charges over the free tier, they'll have a credit card on file for you. Down on the billing page after you've signed up for the hobby plan, you'll see that you get a bunch of free stuff. Specifically, you get a bunch of credits for machines to run your code on. You also get ingress and egress traffic. So that's the data that's coming in and out of their data center. That is billed because that's obviously sending and receiving data takes computing resources. That's something that they'll bill you for. But you get an allowance of all of these things. And I think for the capstone and in general, I think for one app, you won't go over these limits. But we'll get into that closer to the end. I'll actually break out those prices so you can see a little bit better what that might look like. All right.
How did you? Oh, never mind.
Okay. All right, let's install the dev tools. One of the weird things about Fly is that if you go to their main page, they're like, yeah, install the dev tools. Here's how you do it with Brew. Don't do it with Brew. Whatever is uploaded to Brew is a really old version, and it can't be updated. So don't use Brew to install the Fly CLI. Instead, run this command that I'm about to paste into chat in Zoom chat. Go into a terminal, run that somewhere, and that will install the Fly CTL program.
It doesn't matter from where in the terminal when they run it.
Absolutely, doesn't matter where you do it. Yep, it's gonna put it in user bin, I think. So wherever you run it will work.
If we do it in our back end, do we need to do it on our front end as well?
You don't, it doesn't matter where you do it. You just need to do it in one terminal in one place. You don't need to do it for the back end and the front end. Just run it in one terminal somewhere.
Thank you.
Mhm. And then keep that terminal around. Don't navigate away from that terminal. Keep that around. So you'll see in the slide here, when I ran it on my machine, it told me to do a couple things. It told me to manually add the directory to my home ZSHRC. Does anybody else see something similar after the install finishes? It might not say ZSHRC, it might say bash. Does anybody see bash? Or is everybody pretty much seeing ZSHRC? Sorry, I didn't ask the question very well. ZSH, put in chat if you got ZSHRC or bash. Most everybody's saying ZSHRC, which is great. Awesome. Okay, so if somebody else has bash, just let me know because it's not much different. But for ZSHRC, do exactly what it's saying. Open up your .zshrc. If you've never done this before, let me show you. Let me show you how to do it. After I make sure that mine doesn't have anything sensitive. Okay. So if you want to open up your ZSHRC, just open a terminal and just say, type in open ~.zshrc. And that will open it up in a text editor. It might open it up in VS Code.
What you typed in the terminal?
I typed in open ~.zshrc. That will open up your ZSHRC file. Here is the command in Zoom chat.
They needed the tilde/ because it's at the root. Like you couldn't
That
just say
is-
open.
That is the home folder. You could also do, I think you could also do this, open $home. but the tilde represents your home folder. Oops. All right, once you have your ZSHRC folder or file open, which you should see something like this, the contents of yours will be completely different. But down at the very end of it, add a couple of lines and then paste what it put there. So the export fly CTL install, those two lines, those two export lines, do what it says, manually add that to your ZSHRC, add those two lines down at the very bottom. So for me, mine looked like this. So I added these two lines to the end of my ZSHRC. Yours will look a little different. Mine says Nevins because that's my username, but add says mine doesn't exist. The ZSHRC file doesn't exist.
Yes, that's the one that is saying doesn't exist.
Create a new file and throw it in there. If you don't have one at all, does anybody remember the terminal command to create a new file, brand new file? Shannon, hit Control C.
Is it the create?
In the terminal, if you want to create a new file, you can use the command touch tilde dot and then the name of the file that you want to create. So that will create a brand new file called ZSHRC, and then you can open that brand new file. So if you don't have one, feel free to make one using the touch command. That will work.
Every line in my ZSHRC file has a pound sign in front of it. So when I add my the two lines manually, should I be including that pound sign or no?
No, don't include the pound sign.
Right.
Good question. Danny.
So can I share my screen?
Please.
So where do I put the information?
The very, very end. So
So I-
scroll down to the very end. See after the example aliases. Yep, right there.
So this command
Perfect.
and just hit enter.
If you wanna make it pretty, you could get rid of the spaces at the beginning of the export. Yep. Save. Perfect. You're all set.
Awesome, thank you.
And then actually before you quit, Danny, open up another terminal.
Oh, good Lord.
Yep. Command N or whatever to open up a new. There you go. Now type in fly CTL.
Fly
CTL. Yep. And hit enter. Perfect. You have the command installed. That's exactly what we needed. Great.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yep. Shannon? You are muted. Oh. Can't hear you. Shannon, come back to you. So quota?
So can I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the fastest. Yes, Corin, hit Command S, and then you'll know if you did it correctly. If you open up a new terminal, if you open up a new terminal and type in flyctl and it does something, you're all set. Okay, so Koda, so you touched the ZSHRC. Cool, that made an empty ZSHRC file. Now let's open it. So press up a couple times to get back to that open ZSHRC. There you go. Hit enter. This should be empty. Okay, it is. Now that down below in that terminal where you did the flyctl install, yeah, grab those two lines where it has the export stuff. Yep, copy all that. Now go back to that file, paste. If you want to clean up that white space at the beginning, you can to put them both on the same line. Save. All right, now open up a new terminal. You can do it down below in VS Code if you want. You have to open up a new terminal because every time you edit your ZSHRC, you have to have a new one because it reloads it. All right, now type in flyctl.
Yes, fly.
Yep, CTL.
Is it a space?
And C, the letter C, yep, CTL. Enter. There you go. So you have the flyctl command installed. That if you pull that terminal, that window up, you'll see a little bit more of what's going on. It's just telling you that, yeah, flyctl is a command, and here's all the options for running it. And I'm going to show you how to use it here in a minute.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. You can close, yep, absolutely. You can close it out once you've confirmed in a new terminal. Totally. You won't need to open the ZSHRC file anymore. Great. Yes, and it's one word. You could also just type fly in all of the examples I'm going to show you. I'm going to use flyctl, but you could also just use the word fly. Shannon. Still can't hear you for whatever reason. Yeah, she said friend. I read the lips too. She said friend. Connected to audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hello. So can I just share my screen because I got the D quote again?
Yes, please. Oh, okay. Control C. If you ever get into a weird state in your terminal, just say Control C. That'll get you out of there. Okay, over on the left, you've got the ZSHRC open. Scroll down to the very bottom of that file over on the left. Okay. Yep. You're already ahead of me. Hit enter. Let's make a couple new lines there. And then over on the right, when you ran that command to do the install, see where it says manually add the directory to your home? It has that stuff up above.
Yep.
This right here. Grab those two. Yep, those two lines. Exactly. Go back to the ZSHRC, paste them. Okay. And then get rid of that white space, just because. And then save. And then you can actually close the ZSHRC as other people are pointing out.
This one here.
Yep, you can close that. Yep. And you can also close these other two terminal windows if you don't want them anymore. We'll open up a brand new terminal window after you get done closing that one. So Command N. Type in fly CTL or just fly, I don't care. There you go. This is saying obviously fly is a program, and it's saying, okay, here's all the different commands that you can run with it, and we're about to talk about that.
Okay. All right, cool, thank you.
Yeah. Everybody else, if you open up a new terminal, you should be able to type in fly or fly CTL and get something. If you can't, let me know. Otherwise, let's keep going. Okay. All right, so the first thing, run flyctl version update. This is just going to make sure that we're all working on the same version. And that way, if I need to troubleshoot, I'll know that we're all kind of doing around the same version. If it says V0187, then you're on the same version I am. The next one is we need to log in. So flyctl off login will do the trick. So also run this in a terminal. So go ahead and hit continue. It'll say something about how it's connected. You can now close. It should be all set. I'm successfully logged in. You should be successfully logged in too. Shannon, just run the two commands that I have posted. So run the version update command and then also run that auth login one and just follow the whatever pops up. It might pop up in a browser that's not showing up on your screen. So one thing you can do is you could directly click on this link. But if you don't see a website pop up, just go down to your dock down below and look to see if it opened up in one of your web browsers. And then just let me know if you weren't able to get that, Shannon. Plush?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Like, what is this? Like ZSHRC and oh my ZSH, it says like right down there. Like, what are we doing?
So what we were doing is we were adding the fly command to our ZSHRC profile, which means that when we type in flyctl into the terminal, we have to know where the program is to execute. And so when we export our path and we export these locations to that path variable, what we're doing is we're making that program discoverable whenever you type in fly or flyctl. And you can do this for your own programs. If you make a program on your computer and you want to call it from the command line, you could do the same sort of thing. You could put your program in a folder somewhere, but then be able to execute it from anywhere in the terminal. And that's what we're doing with fly here.
One more question. Like, whenever we do npm install or curl install, like, does it install an application on our machine, or is it just a package? Like, where does this go?
A good question. And the answer is it goes exactly where you see in that export command. So for somebody that just ran it, actually, it's here in the slides, in the picture for the slide. So let me share my screen real quick. So notice when I ran this myself, see how it says export fly install equals user nevins dot fly. That's where it's installed to. So when we ran this script, it put it inside of a folder called .fly. So if I want to go and see that location, I can actually go into my .fly folder. And here's all the code for that program that we installed. The slightly longer answer though is whenever you install programs over the terminal, whenever you curl install something, it's totally up to the program where it wants to install itself into. If you install using brew, Brew puts things in the same location. It's under user seller. User user local seller, right? I don't know the name off the top of my head, but it's in a number of different locations that programs could be installed. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Tara, do you want to share your screen? Show me where you're at.
Okay, because I think I must have missed a step or something.
Maybe the install.
I checked the set. I opened up originally. I had opened up a second terminal, and I put that in there, and it popped up with the information that you had showed. So I
Yeah.
thought it was all set, and now it's not, I guess.
Okay, so your ZSHRC looks good. Go click on that ZSHRC window and hit save just to prove that it's all good. Okay, open up another terminal. Fly.
The CLT.
Just either or. They're both the same thing. Fly CTL. Perfect. Yep, it's working. I think you just need to open up another terminal.
Oh, okay, and then just retype in the.
Yeah, so any old terminals that you have open before you edited your ZSHRC won't. Perfect, you're running the latest version. Do that fly CTL off login, and we'll link up your github.com account with the with your terminal.
Thank you.
All right. Back to share my screen. All right, once you've done the version update, once you've done the off login, let's actually go and deploy the blog backend. So to do this, we actually need to navigate in our terminal to where our blog backend repo is. We can get there one of two ways. We can either do it using our terminal, or we can do it with VS Code. Either way works. I'm going to show you how to do it in the terminal. So if you have your terminal window open, you can get to the blog backend by doing cd /documents GitHub, and then whatever the name of your blog backend is. In my case, it was just called blog-backend. So something like this, if you type this into a terminal, something like this will get you into your blog backend folder. We need to go in the terminal. We need to sit inside of the blog backend in order to run these fly commands. Some people named their repo blog-back-end. So if you did that, make sure you're careful when you're navigating over here. The other thing you can do to get a terminal in the blog backend is to open up GitHub Desktop, go to VS Code, do that same sort of thing, create the integrated terminal through VS Code. That's also valid. Either way works. Just somehow get a terminal where the blog backend code is at. All right, once you're in the blog backend, the command to run is flyctl launch or fly launch. Either one will work. And when you run it, you should start getting this prompt. Wait with me step by step because I want to kind of talk about how to fill this out. Corin, yeah, I'm so sorry. I have an obnoxious wide monitor. I keep trying to make these my text bigger, please just tell me if I need to make it bigger or try to resize stuff. I apologize that it's really squeezed out. So when you run flyctl launch, one of the cool things that it'll do is it will detect what kind of code you're working on. So it should detect that it's a Node.js app. When you get to the app name, this needs to be unique. And what I mean is that it needs to be globally unique. So if I were to do like Nathan, somebody's going to already have taken that. And if I did like blog or blog backend, somebody has probably taken that as well. So we need to come up with something unique for the app name for our blog backend. For me, I'm just going to call it Nathan-blog backend, and that's going to be unique enough. You do whatever you need to in order to make it a unique app name. And then for the next prompt, I don't really care where you put it. Just put it somewhere close to you. If that's, I'm assuming that it will probably prompt you to put it in Seattle. Is that what everybody else is getting? What are y'all getting?
Mine is prompting me
Boston.
for Toronto.
Nice too.
Toronto, okay. Yeah, you could put it wherever you want. I'm gonna put mine in Seattle, but just pick whatever's closest to you, or pick whatever it prompts you to do. When it asks you if you want to set up a Postgres database, yes, we're definitely going to do that. So hit yes on that. For the configuration for the Postgres database, go ahead, Corbin.
How did you get to this point?
So
I did
did you
I'm in my backend right now.
run flyctl space launch? So run
Okay.
this command here. It should start asking you a bunch of questions. Is it doing that?
Yeah, it just asked me to choose a name.
Yep. So for the app name, maybe do Corwin-blog-backend.
Okay. And then from there,
Pick whatever region
just
looks
hit
good.
in there.
Yep. And then when it asks for Postgres, say yes.
Okay.
And then for the configuration, we can't get past the location without adding a credit card. Yeah, this is what yeah, exactly. This is what I was talking about. It eventually gets you hung up on adding a card. So it's usually better to just do that right out the gate. Go ahead. Sequota.
So mine says, I chose the region, and then it's error validation failed. Name may only contain letters. Lowercase, lowercase. So I have to do that over.
Probably.
I think
Just Control C to get out of it if it didn't already kick you out, and then run flyctl launch again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Once you get down to the configuration for the Postgres database, yes, development. And the reason why is because we don't need a whole lot. You could definitely burn through some cache if you do one of the other options. So make sure you go with development. And then when it asks you if you want to let it scale down to 0 after an hour, yes. It will do some thinking and some building.
Sorry, you said yes for Postgres?
Say yes to Postgres and then use the development configuration. And then yes to scaling down after 1 hour. Then when it asks you if you want Redis, an Upstash Redis database, just say no.
I'm sorry, when it said the scale single, you said no?
When it says scale down, say yes. You do want it to scale to 0 after 1 hour. So the scale single node to 0 after 1 hour, yes. All right. Have people been able to get through the prompt successfully? Anybody? What Plosh, we got a thumbs up. Cool. One thumb up.
Upstash, am I setting that up or no?
No. Say no. We don't need Redis.
Okay, I'm caught up.
All right. Yep. Danny, go ahead. Run fly deploy. Everybody that gets this far, run fly deploy or fly CTL. Brandy, go ahead and share your screen. I wonder if it's the same name thing.
Probably.
Name has already been taken, yeah. Yeah, like blog is going to be pretty common. So go ahead and rerun it.
Okay.
Also, I don't think you're in the blog backend. So CD and go to CD space tilde. Actually, let's do this the easy way. Go open up GitHub desktop. Bring that over here. So the program, the GitHub desktop program.
Oh, yeah, I knew that's what you meant too. I really did.
It's that purple cat, Octocat deal down in the, yeah, there you go. So yep, take me to the back end. You're already clicked onto the back end. Cool. Open in VS Code. So let's open up a text editor here. It's that open in VS Code button in the center of the screen here. This.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and then we need backend code. So it looks like we're missing blog backend code. Let me, Brady, let me, because we're kind of running out of time. Let me come back to you.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
If you'll stick around. Okay. Okay, folks that were able to do the fly deploy, after it finishes with the fly deploy, it should say something like visit your app at blah, 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 blah. Do you see that? Grab that link and throw it into the spreadsheet for your backend link. Again, that spreadsheet is here. I'm not expecting your backend to work right now. I just want to see how many people, if you put that link down on the backend link column, just want to see how many people were able to get that far. Just give me an idea for tomorrow. Cool.
I wasn't,
If,
I'm trying to add my card, but it says that I'm on, you're paying as you go on the hobby plan.
Mhm.
And it's like not adding the card, so I don't know. I guess I gotta go back and rewatch it or something. I mean, because the only plans it gives me, I go under billing, and then billing has account status trial mode. Add credit card, so I went to add credit card, and then it says plan, trial plan. But then I go to manage plan, and it says that I'm on the hobby plan. Am I supposed to be like, am I supposed to add my card first and then go down to buy credits, or am I supposed to buy the credits and then add my card?
Don't need to do anything with the credits. If it says your plan is on the hobby plan, you're good.
It says plan, trial plan, but I can't
Oh,
switch it from that.
um,
When I go to
on
manage plan, it just says, in the manage plan, it says I'm on the hobby plan. I don't know. Want me to show
that's
you?
strange. Yeah, if you don't mind. Actually, let me stop the recording just to make sure that we don't actually accidentally